There are a lot of things in Bloodborne that I never really got to talk about. These are discoveries that shocked or impressed me in some way when I learnt about them, so when I tell you about them today, I'm kind of betting that you guys will give the same response. Let's get started. The first is something that blew people's minds about 5 months ago. User Chimchari of Reddit didn't run past the Winter Lantern enemy like a sane person would. Instead, she actually took the time to look closely at it and study it. What she found was pretty chilling. She discovered that the Winter Lanterns bear striking resemblance to the plain doll from our dream, down to the smallest little detail on their clothing, every fold of cloth even. When you read over that thread now, you realize that most people didn't believe her at first, until a guy named Jeremy took high-res screenshots of the enemy. Let's take a close look at what they found. The red scarf overlays perfectly with this piece of flesh, the 4 seams on the torso are visible on the lantern's clothing, the corset even takes the same angle on both waists, and there's even the rumpled V-shaped edge that runs around the entire body. The only thing that doesn't appear is the doll's shawl, but even that could be represented by the tendrils coming down from the brain. So, what are the consequences of this? What is the relationship between the doll and the Winter Lanterns? With the knowledge we have, I feel like there's only 2 explanations. My short answer for this video is that the doll in Mensis's nightmare must appear there as a figment of our own consciousness. Or perhaps the doll imagery was brought into the nightmare by Mikolash when the dream was conceived. There's a lot I want to say on this, but it's too detailed for this video, so I'll write a document and I'll leave a link to it in the description if you're interested. Moving on, but still speaking of the doll, did you know that she has eyes on the inside of her head? Most of you probably learnt this trick from Epic Namebro, who did it in his first episode of his Bloodborne Let's Play, I believe. Having eyes on the inside is synonymous with gaining insight, as mentioned by the third of the umbilical cord description, and it makes you wonder, do you think her eyes here are a part of a badly mapped texture? Are they a hidden Easter egg? Or are they something more? Surely there's more to the doll than there seems at first glance. She even has a unique piece of dialogue that you can easily go the whole game without hearing. The requirements for this dialogue appearing are pretty unclear, but it should eventually happen to you. Have a listen.
O Flora of the moon, of the dream, O little ones, O fleeting will of the ancients, let the hunter be safe, let him find comfort, and let this dream, his captor, foretell a pleasant awakening.
The doll wants you to be safe. She wants you to awaken and to forget. Basically, she wants you to go through with the accept death ending, where you kneel before Gehrman. The ending that other hunters like Jura and Eileen surely got. Hunters who experienced the dream likely served a purpose on a different night of the hunt, and then were removed. When Gehrman grants you mercy, you become one of the many gravestones marking the other hunters who passed through here as you did. In New Game Plus, you will sometimes spawn in to see the doll behind you, kneeling at your earlier grave. To me, it's a neat reference to what Bloodborne's New Game Plus represents. It implies that the dream continues even after you pass through it. Somehow, the dream must be useful to whatever maintains it, be it Gehrman, the moon presence, or maybe even the doll from what we've seen. And did you know that before you start your final fight with Gehrman, that it's possible to PvP in the Hunter's Dream? It's a pretty fantastic setting, although this isn't easy to do. Your Sinister Resonant Bell is grayed out, so the only way to PvP is to summon help for you in your boss fight, and then kill them. The adversary system is one of those really hidden mechanics in Bloodborne. It relates to the 4th rune you have memorized, so it basically makes it so that Vile Bloods can fight Executioners, vice versa, and also so that Hunters of Hunters can kill Blood-addled Hunters. For example, if you're a Vile Blood with the Corruption rune equipped, and you beckon an Executioner with the Radiance rune equipped, he won't be friendly, he'll be your adversary. These enemies appear purple in your world, a mixture of the red of an invader and the blue of a friendly. If you're trying to do this with a friend or a group, I recommend setting a password. Oh, and also, if you have the Hunter's rune memorized, according to the guidebook, there is a 5% chance that you'll be matched with an enemy when you use your small resonant bell. Speaking of the Hunter's Rune, its design actually has a lot behind it. Firstly, it's almost definitely a reference to the brand of sacrifice from the Berserk manga, upon which a lot of Souls themes are based. The famous example is Artorias. There's also the wheel skeletons featured in the manga. You should totally read it, by the way. Chapter 340 was just released, so you've got a lot of catching up to do, but it's worth it. Anyway, the shape of the mark always interested me too. It looks like a human hanging upside down, and I think that's what it just might be. The Hunter's Mark description describes it as a dangling upside-down rune, which is what clued me into it. And there are such people hung like this in the Chalice dungeons, with their legs and hands bound together in the symbol of the rune. I also remember learning about this being a method of torture, where all the blood runs to your head and you can lose consciousness or die. If you cut their throat, I imagine it's a good method of draining someone for blood as well. This makes the next point even more salient. Did you know that the Hunter's Mark also spells the word blood? Reddit user Greycross first noticed this about 6 months ago, and it checks out. In most games, you'd probably chalk this up to coincidence, but it's crazy how much detail From can put in sometimes. A tiny detail I noticed a while ago was to do with pebbles. They look suspiciously like eyeballs, don't they? I was looking at one after I looted it from a crow, and I was thinking, hang on, why are crows dropping pebbles? And then it clicked. Carrion crows eat eyes, crows drop pebbles, pebbles look like eyes. My god. To make this point a bit more interesting, did you know that there's a crow in Hemwick who's entirely non-hostile? His placement is in the middle of all these other crows that you'll likely aggro when you try to kill them, so it's just as likely that you killed the friendly crow when you weren't paying attention. This poor, innocent crow. It's all about the little things. Speaking of which, always read book titles in Souls games. There's usually an Easter egg or two. In Gurman's workshop, there's a book titled How to Pick Up Fair Maidens. Not much use to you here, Gurman. Another hidden thing is illusory walls, and you'd be forgiven if you didn't even think these existed in Bloodborne. Turns out they're only located in Chalice dungeons. None have been found in the main game, though we should look out for some in the DLC, shouldn't we? There are 4 in the Lower Tumeru Chalice dungeon, 1 for each floor, but they're also known to appear randomly in Root Chalice dungeons as well. Number 10 is to do with the silver beasts in the Nightmare of Mensis. Did you know that they spawn 3 maggots upon death? You probably did know that. I didn't. I went through this area with a fire-buffed weapon, and it turns out that if you kill them with fire or a visceral attack, that the maggots burn up inside and they won't spawn upon death. It's a pretty useful tip if you're having some trouble. Number 11 is regarding the Forbidden Forest Gatekeeper. Willem kept 2 loyal servants back at Byrgenwerth. When they were sent into the labyrinth, they encountered the Eldritch Truth and went mad. One became the password gatekeeper, while Doris became a graveguard of the forest. Even in madness, though, they remained loyal. Keep talking to him, and eventually he'll say this.
The password. Mama knows I'm at the door and got to close the door. Close the door. No, someone at the door. I've got to get the door. Let's get the door. Bit me.
It's as if he's feverishly reminding himself, even in his madness, that that door has to remain closed, else people will discover the Eldritch Truth hidden at Byrgenwerth. Number 12. We've talked before about how lore can be lost and found in translation, and Bloodborne is no exception apparently. According to a post on the Fextra Life wiki, the original Japanese name of the bloodletting beast is Host of the Beast Blood, which is truly interesting. I feel like we missed out on a fairly important point of the lore here. It could imply that the blood of this creature started it all, and it also makes you wonder, is there such a thing as beast blood that's different from the blood other people are infected with? The people of Byrgenwerth, for example, near Rom, they've all turned into insect-like creatures, and the ones near Abritus are alien-like. So how many strains of the old blood are there? Number 13. Did you know that Miyazaki has confirmed the skull in the Grand Cathedral to be Lawrence? In the official strategy guide, he says that Lawrence's skull served as the start of the healing church itself, but it's taken the form of a twisted beast. It's interesting that he says that the skull itself served as the start of the healing church, and not Lawrence. Maybe Lawrence became the headless, bloodletting beast. We did just mention that he was the host of the beast blood, after all. 14 has to do with the Witch of Hemwick, one of the best fights that you can use low insight to your advantage. She spawns these mad ones endlessly the first time you fight her, because you'll always have at least one insight from initiating the fight. But if you want an easy fight, just go in there with no insight at all, and no mad ones will spawn. It makes it a complete cakewalk. And lastly, the Hunter's Dream music changes if you acquire more than 40 insight. It changes from this to this. Thank you all for watching. I hope you don't mind. I felt like doing a slightly easier to make video after the last one, which was a much more ambitious project. I'd really appreciate if you checked it out, by the way. It's about the artists of the Souls community, and it's one of my videos I'm more proud of. I'm never really happy with a lot of the videos I put out, but I'm pretty happy with that one. Cheers guys, I'll see you in the next one.